What's up guys, I want to take my time to talk about one of my favorite gaming consoles of all time, that is the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast to me had one of the best library of games in gaming history. It was a true experience for the arcade experience to come straight to your home. Games like Soul Calibur, Power Stone, Shenmue, Marvel's Capcom series, Crazy Taxi, and so much more. In this video, I'm going to talk about my childhood memories, why I love the console so much, and my favorite games that was on the beloved beautiful console called the Dreamcast. So with that being said, please follow me through this video, and please do me the favor by subscribing to my channel and liking this video. Now let's continue. The Dreamcast launched on 9/9/1999. I was only 5 years old at this point. I remember all the funky, funny commercials that would air to advertise the Sega Dreamcast on TV. It brought all the Sega characters to life. My personal favorite one was the one where Sonic was DJing and it had all the characters dancing and jamming in the background. And this was just to advertise Sonic Adventure. And at the end you hear the Dreamcast motto, "It's thinking." But the story all starts, my oldest brother, who was the one who brought all of the games at the time, he was a huge Sega fanboy. I grew up on Sega because of him. We had the Sega Genesis, we had the Sega Saturn, we also had the Sega Dreamcast. I have the most memories with the Dreamcast because for us, the Dreamcast lasted for a long period of time. We brought it when it launched and kept playing it even after the Dreamcast has died. And the PlayStation 2 and Xbox was available in stores. I was too young to remember, but I vaguely remember my brother and my dad buying the Dreamcast from Toys R Us back when game cartridges and discs weren't on the display shelves. Instead, you would have to go into a room that was the video game aisle, which had display cards of the games and paper tickets showing the box art. Once you picked up the game you wanted, you take the paper ticket to the register. The cashier would then go into a locked storage area behind the counter and return with a brand new sealed copy. At the time, my brother and my dad brought the Dreamcast that came with Sonic Adventure. It came with a demo disc called Sega Dreamcast Generator Volume 1. It came with games like Power Stone, Sonic Adventure, The House of the Dead 2, Sega Bass Fishing, Monaco Grand Prix. Like already, this demo had crazy hits on the Dreamcast. I will always play the Power Stone demo, which only had two playable characters, which was Falcon and Gunrock. Even though it was just a demo, I played it so much that my hands couldn't drop the controller. Then there was Ready to Rumble from Midway, which was a goofy arcade boxing game with funny characters. It had the legendary announcer Michael Buffer doing the commentary. I thought that during that time, that was the smoothest boxing game compared to other boxing games, which was the one that played the most smoothest, and the graphics were pretty great for its time. I used to always pick Afro Thunder in the demo just because as a kid I liked the fact that he had an afro and his personality definitely reminded me of like Chris Tucker as a kid. But I just remember mostly mashing buttons in that game, and there was a feature where the more strong hits you land, the letter would pop up. That would eventually spell Rumble. Once you activate the Rumble, your gloves will glow, and there you can just land as many hits as you want. But man, just playing the demo for Ready to Rumble made me want to ask my brother to buy the full game, which eventually we did end up buying the full game, and I still own the copy till this day. Now the next game in that demo was The House of the Dead 2. Now this was my favorite game off the demo because to me, I used to love Virtual Cop on the Sega Saturn. We didn't have the gun, but as a kid you didn't care. You just would mash the A button on the controller and the B button to reload. The demo only had training missions, no main story missions, so I remember just playing the hell out of the same 4 training missions that was on the demo. Unfortunately, we never ended up getting the full game on the Dreamcast until I brought The House of the Dead 3 on the original Xbox, and that came with the full version of The House of the Dead 2, which is crazy. It had 2 games in one, and owning The House of the Dead 3, having the fact that it had House of the Dead 2, it kind of made up for the fact that I did not own House of the Dead 2 on the Sega Dreamcast, but I still had a lot of fun playing the demo. Now the next demo that was featured on this demo disc was Sega Bass Fishing. Now, I just had a little pleasure playing this game as a kid. Obviously, I wasn't really into fishing in real life, but the demo did bring some joy for me, to the fact that you could just catch the biggest fish, mash the R trigger until you bring that big fish into your boat. You can move the boat around and then get the biggest score. And then on top of that, I love the announcer. The announcer, he's just like, big fish. Like the way his voice just like deepens, and just like the way he just sounded every time you caught like the biggest fish and got the best score. Like for some reason, this was just my guilty pleasure to play when I was like really bored, instead of playing like all the other demos within the demo disc, because most of the games on there I did eventually buy them, but Sega Bass Fishing was one of the games in the demo disc that I didn't get to buy until like later during the year. So I had a pleasure playing this game just for the heck of it. But that was mostly it for the demo disc. Now I want to talk about my experience with playing one of my favorite games of all time, one of my favorite Dreamcast games as well. That game is Sonic Adventure. My gosh, to see my favorite mascot, my favorite gaming character of all time at the time, Sonic going into full 3D form, was astonishing. The graphics for the time was unbelievable. I couldn't believe my eyes from the start of the first stage, Emerald Coast. Just seeing Sonic run at full speed, running away while a giant whale is chasing you, while the whale is breaking down the platform that you're running in. That was something that was so ahead of its time for a Sonic game to have this. It just blew my mind to see this, especially my reaction as a kid. I just loved playing that stage over and over again. Then you had stages like Casino Palace, which had a lot of different mini games included in the stage, like pinball that was modeled after Knights. They had slot machines. Like this stage was fun at its finest. Probably my third favorite stage out of all the stages in Sonic Adventure. My number one favorite stage in Sonic Adventure though was Speed Highway. I love the stage's environment where it takes place in multiple city highways. The fact that it was also during the night time, you see helicopters are chasing you around. There was a part of the stage where you're running down a large building before crashing through a glass wall. Like I said, this was so mind-blowing to me as a kid. And then the game also featured multiple cast of characters including Knuckles, Tails, Big the Cat, Amy, E102 Gamma. I mostly loved playing as Knuckles and obviously Sonic. I hated playing as Big the Cat because his missions were so repetitive. It was just boring. You're just fishing around. Never liked the character neither, but overall, Sonic Adventure was literally one of my all-time favorite Dreamcast games of all time. It definitely still stands at high point as one of my favorite games of all time in general. The next Dreamcast game that I hold so much memories with, and it's one of the greatest Dreamcast games, literally, that had to be Crazy Taxi. This was the true arcade feeling at your home. Everything was just amazing about this game. The fast-paced gameplay, the adrenaline rush of picking up passengers, running into San Francisco, riding off those big hills, just dropping off passengers to like a nearby American restaurant and stores. They had Pizza Hut, KFC, Tower Records, Levi's store. You can drive underwater, picking up passengers on the water. Your mission in this game is just to take as many passengers to their destination. They have different color passengers, the green being the most money but furthest destination, and the red being the least amount of money but closer destination. So if you're running out of time, the red passengers will be the best. Don't get me started with the soundtrack. This is single-handedly one of the best and most memorable gaming soundtracks of all time. It featured tracks from The Offspring, tracks like All I Want, Dumb, and Us Change the World. Like all these songs match the vibe of just playing Crazy Taxi, and the soundtrack, like I said, it's still memorable till this day, and I really can't wait for the new Crazy Taxi that's going to be releasing next year. I do hope that all the favorite classic characters from all across the Crazy Taxi games return, especially Axel. Like you already know, he's already in the trailers and everything else. He's one of the main memorable characters within the series, so they definitely gonna bring him back, and I cannot wait. The next game that I'm gonna bring up is one of my favorite 3D fighting franchises till this day, and that's Soul Calibur. Now, funny story, we did not buy the original Soul Calibur up until we brought Soul Calibur 2 on the original Xbox, because at that time retro games were so cheap. This is a time where when you bought a new console, it would come out, Electronic and all the other game stores wouldn't really care about past generations anymore, so they would lower the prices of the previous generations of games just to focus on the current generation. So me and my middle brother, we found Soul Calibur 1 just sitting on the shelf for about $10, and that's when we had to snag it at the time. I personally bought Soul Calibur 2, so at the time it was kind of weird to play Soul Calibur 1 while having that feeling of playing the more updated Soul Calibur 2 with better graphics. Soul Calibur 2, I mean, we were so young, we didn't really care much about the difference in graphics or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, Soul Calibur 1 still looked very good at the time, next to its sequel, Soul Calibur 2. But going back and playing Soul Calibur 1 after playing Soul Calibur 2, it didn't hit me as much as I would have been if I played it when it just released on the Dreamcast originally. Another thing is that I had to find my favorite character slash main for Soul Calibur 1. Since Soul Calibur 2 had my favorite character, which was Talum, and she was a newcomer for Soul Calibur 2. She was not in Soul Calibur 1, and I had to find my main character, so with that, I chose between Kilik and Mitsurugi. I love the game mode as well, that was Mission Battle Mode, which was also in Soul Calibur 2, but in Soul Calibur 2 it was called Weapon Master Mode, which you unlock weapons for each character. In Soul Calibur 1, you also had to unlock in a range of characters like Rock, Hoang, Song Mina, and many more. While I did end up buying this game at the same time as its sequel, I still very much enjoyed Soul Calibur 1 as much as I did for Soul Calibur 2. As the years progress, even to this day now, Soul Calibur 1 is still a beautiful gem of a game. Now, another beautiful gem that was also a fighting game on the Dreamcast, as I talked about earlier, playing the demo, it was Power Stone. Jeez, this was just massively fun. It was simplistic, you didn't have to do any crazy motion inputs on your controller in order to do special moves like Street Fighter. You get to freely move around the stage, you can pick up weapons, rocket launchers, guns, chairs, tables, like it was just chaos. And then once you collect all 3 stones, you transform into like this form where now you have special powers. Some of the characters had ridiculous specials, like Wonton for instance. Dude was literally just a Super Saiyan when he had all the power stones. He had a spirit bomb, he was destroying you with ki blast. And then you had Falcon, who was also blasting missiles at you when he collected all the power stones. He had this special where he launches all these missiles at you and they will follow you around, and this other one where it's like a barrage attack and it follows you around as well. And as I said before, Falcon was my favorite character in the series. The game had 10 characters with 2 additional bosses that you can unlock after beating the game with everyone. The 2 bosses were Valgus and Kraken. Valgus was the final main boss. He was transformed into then Final Valgus, which was a bitch to beat during the time, especially with certain characters. I love the diverse character roster. You had the samurai guy, which was Ryoma. Then you had Jack, which was this weird spider mummy looking character. Then you had Wonton, your average kung fu Chinese kid. Then once you collected the power stone, he turned into a Saiyan. So yeah, the characters are pretty interesting to me compared to a lot of fighting games I played at the time. So Power Stone was one of its kind for the Sega Dreamcast, and I'm glad that there's an easy way to play it on modern platforms now through the Capcom Collection 2. So if you guys never played Power Stone, I would highly suggest you guys go out and play this game, because Power Stone was literally one of its kind. Now, the final game that I'm gonna talk about that was so memorable for me, this game brought me and my brothers together. We always agreed that this was one of the greatest games to ever exist, and that is Shenmue. Now, similar to the same story that I was telling you about Soul Calibur 1, it's the same story that I can tell you about Shenmue. We knew about Shenmue for the longest and always wanted it. We would see it in gaming magazines, how much people would praise the game for its presentation, the gameplay and graphics, and the fact that you can just free roam and do whatever you want, the amount of NPCs that you can talk to. It was so ahead of its time. But when we brought Shenmue 2 on the Xbox, it came with a DVD that showed Shenmue Shenmue 1 story as like a movie, and that's what we did. We watched that before playing Shenmue 2. Then we eventually ended up buying Shenmue 1 on the Dreamcast. It didn't change our experience playing the game. I still remember playing and beating Shenmue 1 on the Dreamcast even after beating Shenmue 2 on the original Xbox. It was still an experience that no video game can ever replicate. The story begins in Yokosuka, Japan in 1986. Teenager Ryo Hazuki returns home to find a mysterious martial artist named Lan Di confronting his father, Iwao Hazuki. Inside the family dojo, Lan Di demands to know the location of the Phoenix Mirror, an ancient stone mirror. When Iwao refuses to reveal everything he knows, Lan Di defeats him in a brutal fight and kills him. Before leaving Lan Di's men, they steal the Phoenix Mirror. Devastated, Ryo vows to avenge his father's death. His search takes him throughout Yokosuka as he questions townspeople, investigates local gangs, and uncovers his father's connection to the Chinese martial artist and the mysterious mirrors. I feel like the craziest part about this game was the fact that it was free. Like I said, you could do whatever you want with the gameplay. You could talk to hundreds of NPCs, visit random shops, restaurants, play arcade games. There was a lot of interactions with the environment. You can open drawers, inspect objects. You're doing all of this while finding clues about your father's killers. And then there's also fighting in this game. It was heavily inspired by Virtua Fighter since it was created by the legendary creator Yu Suzuki. You can punch, kick, throw, block. The movement felt like Virtua Fighter games, and you can even learn new moves and martial arts techniques. Like, this game was just nothing like we ever seen before. This game was so ahead of its time with its cinematic storytelling, and till this day this game slash series is still making a huge impact to a ton of fans around the world. It's unfortunate the treatment it's getting from Sega, but at the very least we did receive Shenmue 3. Although it was underwhelming compared to its two predecessors, it still holds up to a lot of fans of the series. But Shenmue was that game that pushed the Dreamcast to its limits. As groundbreaking as the game was, unfortunately it could not save the Dreamcast. And from that day, I remember seeing on gaming magazines and news that Sega has given up on the Dreamcast. March 31st, 2001, it couldn't hold up, unfortunately, to the PlayStation 2. And unfortunately, people found a way to illegally obtain Dreamcast games by downloading the games to a blank CD-R CD without buying physical copies, which quickly killed the Dreamcast. Me and my brothers were devastated when we heard the news that Sega is dead when it comes to the console race. We couldn't believe it. Eventually, as the Dreamcast died, we did move on from the Sega hardware. We eventually brought an original Xbox, which was the spiritual successor to the Dreamcast. It had the same controller layout, A, B, Y, and X. A lot of the Sega exclusives, including the House of the Dead 3, Jet Set Radio Future, Sega GT, and Shenmue 2. But it just didn't hold up to how memorable and unique the Dreamcast was. But there it is. This is my memories with the Sega Dreamcast, one of the greatest consoles of all time. And as of till this day, the Dreamcast still holds and is one of the greatest consoles of all time. No one can ever change my opinion about that. So with that being said, if you came this far into this video, please support me by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I will highly appreciate it. And please, in the comment section, if you guys have any memories with the Sega Dreamcast, please go ahead and comment. I will really appreciate that. I want to hear you guys' story, so I will read all the comments. So anyways, with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you for watching.